The highway stretched like a ribbon through the vast wilderness, empty and silent under the weight of late afternoon sun. A beat-up pickup truck rumbled along, its windows streaked with dust and time. Behind the wheel sat Lena, a woman in her late 30s, her expression a mixture of focus and fatigue. The only sound inside the truck was the hum of the engine, and the soft breathing of a dog curled on the passenger seat. He was a German shepherd, thin but noble-looking, with patches of matted fur and eyes that had seen too much. His name was Ghost. Lena had found him a few weeks earlier, limping near a rest stop in Arizona, his collar frayed and no tags in sight. She hadn't meant to keep him, but he had followed her to the truck and refused to leave. Now they were a team, two souls quietly chasing something neither could name. Lena glanced over at him. "We'll stop soon, okay? Just a bit farther." Ghost's ears twitched, but he didn't move. The road ahead split into gravel. Lena slowed, turning down a side path that led toward the mountains. A broken wooden sign read, "Merrick Creek, 12 miles." She didn't know why she chose it. Something about the name. Maybe it sounded like home. A chill wind pushed through the cracked window. Ghost lifted his head, alert. Lena reached down and patted the glove compartment. Inside was a photo of her younger brother Josh, smiling beneath a pine tree, his army jacket covered in patches. He had vanished in these woods 3 years ago. Officially, he was listed as missing. Unofficially, Lena had never stopped looking. As the sky dimmed to gold, the truck rolled on, toward Merrick Creek, toward memories, and perhaps toward something waiting in the woods. By the time Lena reached the outskirts of Merrick Creek, the sun had dipped below the ridge, and the trees had swallowed what was left of the daylight. The gravel road narrowed, flanked by thick woods on either side. Towering pines loomed overhead like sentries, casting shadows that flickered across her windshield. The town appeared suddenly, like a memory she didn't know she had. A rusty "Welcome to Merrick Creek" sign leaned sideways in the dirt, its white paint peeling, barely readable under moss. Below it, someone had scrawled "Population dwindling" in permanent marker. Lena gave a short, bitter laugh. Ghost sat up straighter now, ears perked, eyes scanning the fading shapes beyond the road. He hadn't made a sound, but Lena could feel his unease. It matched her own. She turned onto the main street, if it could be called that. A dozen or so buildings lined both sides, mostly old shops and boarded-up diners. A bar with flickering neon, a post office with a busted mailbox, and a lone gas station that looked closed even when open. There was no one in sight. The truck hissed to a stop outside a small motel. Its sign buzzed with failing light. Creekside Inn, vacancy. She stepped out, gravel crunching underfoot, the air crisp with the scent of pine and smoke. Ghost hopped down beside her, tail still but ready. Inside the lobby, a bell chimed as she opened the door. A middle-aged woman behind the counter looked up, startled. She wore a faded sweater and had tired eyes that narrowed at the dog. "Just for a few nights," Lena said, placing a credit card on the counter. "We'll be quiet." The woman studied her for a beat longer than necessary, then gave a slow nod. "Room 3, end of the hall. Heat's temperamental, and watch the woods after dark." Lena didn't ask why. She didn't need to. Room 3 was small, musty, and carried the scent of old pine cleaner and something damp. The heater rattled like an old man trying to stand, but it worked, barely. Lena dropped her backpack on the chair and sat on the edge of the bed. Ghost paced once, then curled near the door like a soldier on watch. She kicked off her boots and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Cracks spider-webbed across it like faded scars. The silence in the room felt too still, like the entire town was holding its breath. Her phone had no bars. Of course it didn't. She pulled out the photo of Josh again from the glove box and set it on the nightstand. In the picture, he was young, smiling, confident. Before the deployment, before the letters stopped, the wind howled outside. Ghost sat up sharply, ears rigid. Lena frowned. "What is it?" He didn't bark, just stared at the door. A low growl vibrated from his throat, not loud, but steady, like a warning. She moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. Nothing, just darkness and the silhouette of trees swaying in the wind. But something in that darkness felt wrong. Not dangerous. Not yet. Just watchful. A knock came, not on her door, but faint, like it came from the wall. Then another, 2 short taps. Lena froze. No footsteps, no voices, just the heater rattling and Ghost growling softly, never taking his eyes off the far corner of the room. The taps didn't come again. She let out a slow breath and locked the door from the inside. "Probably pipes," she whispered to herself. "Just old pipes." But the woods outside didn't feel like they believed her. Neither did Ghost. The next morning brought gray skies and the smell of rain. Lena bundled up in her old field jacket, clipped Ghost's leash, and stepped out into the chilled morning air. The town still looked abandoned, but somewhere in the distance, she heard a single engine rumble to life, proof that Merrick Creek wasn't entirely dead. They walked in silence, boots crunching gravel as they passed shuttered storefronts and faded murals on crumbling brick walls. Ghost stayed close, nose twitching at every gust of wind. The diner was the only building with life behind its windows. A red open sign buzzed weakly in the glass, surrounded by fingerprints and a half-torn flyer for a lost cat. Inside, warmth greeted her, along with the scent of coffee and fried bacon. A few patrons sat hunched at booths, 2 older men with faces like carved oak, and a waitress who looked like she'd been working since before sunrise. Lena slid into a booth near the window. Ghost curled beneath the table. The waitress approached, notepad in hand, and gave her a curious look. "Passing through?" she asked. "Maybe," Lena replied, "looking for someone." The woman raised a brow, but didn't press. "Coffee?" "Please." As Lena stirred sugar into her cup, the bell above the door jingled. A man walked in, tall, late 40s, with a beard that didn't quite hide the scar on his cheek. He wore a ranger jacket, but his eyes were what caught Lena's attention. Sharp, assessing. He nodded at the waitress, then turned toward Lena's table. "You're the one in room 3, he said. Lena froze. "Yeah. Why?" He didn't smile. "Just be careful out here. Strange things happen in Merrick Creek, especially when the fog rolls in." Then he turned, ordered black coffee, and sat alone at the counter. Like that warning was the only reason he'd come in. By noon, the sky had darkened to a heavy slate gray. Rain hadn't come yet, but it was close. Lena zipped her jacket and stood at the edge of the tree line behind the motel, staring into the forest where Josh had last been seen. Ghost sat beside her, tense. She reached into her pocket and unfolded a worn map, its corners frayed from too many searches. Josh's last GPS ping had placed him 3 miles northwest of Merrick Creek, near a section marked Old Logging Road. Official search parties had combed the area for weeks, but Lena never trusted official endings. She clicked her flashlight, checked the compass, and looked down at Ghost. "Let's go." The trees closed around them like curtains. Sound faded. No cars, no wind, just the crunch of leaves beneath her boots and the occasional drip of moisture falling from pine needles above. After 20 minutes, the forest grew dense. The trail narrowed, barely visible, swallowed by moss and fallen branches. Still, Lena pressed on. Every broken twig and shadow felt like it might hold a clue. Ghost stopped suddenly, nose lifted, body alert. "What is it?" she whispered. He turned left, stepping off the trail. Hesitating for just a second, Lena followed. They came upon a clearing, small, circular, unnaturally quiet. In the center stood a pile of stones, carefully arranged. On top sat a rusted dog tag, half buried in mud. Lena's heart pounded. She knelt, brushing it off with shaking hands. Joshua M. Reyes, O+, U.S. Army. Her breath caught. "Josh!" Before she could react further, Ghost growled, low and furious. She looked up. The forest was moving. Not with animals, with shapes. Silent. Watching. Lena's fingers tightened around the dog tag as Ghost bared his teeth, body low and rigid. The clearing had turned cold, unnaturally so. Even the birds had gone silent. Between the trees, figures hovered, just outside clear view. Shadows tall and still, like carved silhouettes of people who had once belonged to this place. Lena stood slowly, not turning her back. "It's okay," she whispered, more to herself than the dog. "They're just watching." One of the shapes stepped back, melting into the woods. Another followed. Within seconds, the clearing was empty again, like nothing had ever been there. Ghost didn't relax. Neither did she. She pocketed the tag and backed out of the clearing, retracing her steps with deliberate care. It wasn't fear that kept her moving. It was purpose. She had something now. Proof. Josh had been here. Back at the motel, Lena washed the tag under the bathroom sink, scrubbing away years of rust and grime. As she dried it with a towel, something small slipped from the chain, a micro SD card, almost too thin to notice. What the? She didn't have a laptop with her, but the motel's front desk had an ancient desktop in a dusty business corner. After bribing the receptionist with a $20 bill, she sat at the clunky machine, heart racing as the card loaded. It contained one folder, Merrick Ops. Inside, photos of the forest, notes in shorthand, maps marked with X's, and one audio file labeled Recording 7-3:12 a.m. She clicked it. A man's voice, Josh's, crackled through. "If you're hearing this, I didn't make it out. They're not human. Don't trust the ranger. He led me here." Then static. Then silence. Lena sat frozen, jaw tight. Ghost stared at the door. Someone was knocking. The knock came again, firmer this time. 3 sharp raps against the motel door. Lena shut the browser, yanked the SD card from the computer, and stuffed it into her jacket pocket. Ghost was already on his feet, hackles raised. She moved quietly to the peephole. It was the ranger, the same man from the diner, standing there with a neutral expression. But now something about him looked off. His uniform was pristine, too clean for someone supposedly working in muddy woods. His boots didn't have a single leaf stuck to them. He knocked once more. "Ma'am?" "Just checking in." Lena didn't answer. "I saw your truck near the trailhead this morning," he continued. "Dangerous area. Wouldn't want anyone getting lost." She stayed silent, heart racing. The words from Josh's recording looped in her head. "Don't trust the ranger." He waited a moment longer, then turned and walked away. She stayed at the door until she heard his footsteps fade completely. Only then did she exhale. Back inside the room, she placed the dog tag and SD card on the desk, thinking. Something was happening in Merrick Creek, something deeper than a missing hiker. She remembered the stones in the clearing, the shadows between trees, the unnatural cold, and now this. Josh had known. He had been onto something. She needed help, but not from locals. Pulling out her phone again, she held it near the window. One flicker of a bar, then gone. Damn it. Suddenly, Ghost growled again, this time toward the bathroom. Lena grabbed the flashlight. She pushed open the bathroom door. Inside, the mirror was fogged, though the room wasn't hot. On the glass, written in a smeared line of condensation, "He sees you." Lena stared at the message on the mirror, her breath caught in her chest. The bathroom was cold, too cold for condensation. She reached out and wiped the words away, but the chill remained, settled deep in her bones. Ghost whimpered softly behind her. She crouched down and gently placed a hand on his head. "It's okay. We're okay." But she didn't believe it. Back at the desk, she reinserted the SD card into the motel's old desktop, praying it hadn't been damaged. The folder reappeared instantly. One document stood out now, Map Alt version 3. When she opened it, her eyes widened. It wasn't a normal trail map. It was a layered scan, showing not just the surface of Merrick Creek's forest, but something beneath it. Tunnels, passageways, a web of underground paths stretching from the creek into the foothills, some marked with symbols, X's, spirals, and strange mirrored S-shapes. One tunnel looped directly beneath room 3 of the motel. Lena leaned back, chills crawling across her spine. What had Josh found? And why was he using military encryption to mark these maps? She remembered the ranger's face at the door. Too calm, too precise. Josh had said he'd been led into the woods. The symbols weren't random either. She recognized one from the clearing where she found the dog tag, etched into a tree trunk, a spiral around a single eye. A knock interrupted her thoughts again, but not from the door this time, from under the floor. Ghost growled, backing toward the bed. Then the lights flickered, twice, and went out. Lena grabbed the flashlight and swung it toward the vent near the floorboards. Dust drifted from the edges. Something had moved behind it. And then, a whisper. Not outside. Not in the room. But beneath her. Lena crouched near the floor vent, flashlight trembling in her hand. The whisper had been faint, like a breath, but unmistakable. Ghost stayed frozen, ears pressed back, body low to the ground. She removed the screws from the vent cover one by one, her fingers slick with sweat. When she pulled it off, the smell hit her, earthy, metallic, and old. Behind the vent was a narrow shaft, barely big enough to crawl through, descending into darkness. A metal ladder led down. Lena glanced at Ghost. "You're staying here." He growled in protest, but she shook her head. "If something happens to me, I need you to be out here." She dropped her phone into her coat pocket, grabbed a spare flashlight, and started climbing down. Each rung creaked under her weight, the air growing colder the farther she descended. After 20 feet, the ladder ended at a dirt floor. She stepped off into a tunnel, walls reinforced with old timber, some cracked, others blackened like they'd been scorched. The silence was suffocating. She moved slowly, following the path, marking turns in chalk from her pocket, just like Josh used to teach her when they played scavenger games as kids. Then she found it, a chamber, roughly dug, but with purpose. In the center stood a table, stone, carved with the same spiral eye symbol. Around it were candles, all burned low, and on the wall, scrawled in something red, "We remember the fallen. We reclaim the lost." Beside the table lay a satchel. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, Josh's notebook. She flipped through frantic pages, sketches of creatures, notes about symbols, journal entries. His last one circled in ink. They feed on fear. They find you when you remember. Memory is the signal. A sound echoed behind her, slow, dragging steps in the dirt. Someone, or something, was coming. Lena froze, the notebook still open in her hands. The footsteps behind her were slow but deliberate, dragging like boots through wet soil. She shut off her flashlight and pressed her back to the cold stone table, breath shallow in the dark. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned, thick, unnatural. She reached into the satchel again, blindly feeling for anything useful. Her fingers closed around a small audio recorder, labeled in Josh's handwriting, Number 9, last entry. She hit play. His voice crackled to life, barely above a whisper. They watch through the trees. They hear through memory. If you forget, you're safe. If you remember, they follow. I couldn't help myself. I kept remembering her face, our backyard, the treehouse. A soft rustle cut through the tunnel. Josh's voice trembled. They're here now. I don't know how much longer. The recording ended in static. Lena stared into the dark, pulse racing. So that was it. These things, whatever they were, fed off memory, off grief, off everything she'd carried for years, and she'd just spent the last 2 days remembering everything. Footsteps resumed, closer now. Lena clicked her flashlight back on, throwing the beam toward the tunnel. Nothing. But when she turned back toward the table, someone stood behind it. Josh, or a version of him. His face was gaunt, hollow. His army jacket was soaked and torn. His eyes glowed faintly, too bright, too still. Lena, he whispered, you shouldn't have come. She stepped back, heart pounding. Josh? Is it really you? His head tilted slightly. No, but I remember being him. The light flickered, and then the tunnel went dark again. The darkness was absolute. Lena couldn't see her own hand, couldn't even tell if her eyes were open. The air around her felt thick, like breathing through wet wool. Somewhere ahead, Josh's not Josh voice lingered in the silence. I remember being him. Her fingers fumbled for the flashlight. She smacked it against her palm, once, twice. It flickered, then held. The figure was gone. Only the stone table remained, along with the notebook and the faint outline of footsteps leading deeper into the tunnel. Lena didn't follow right away. Her instincts screamed to turn back, to climb up the ladder, leave the town, forget everything. But she couldn't. Not now. Not with the notebook in her hand and her brother's memory reanimated like a ghost in the dirt. She took a breath. One step forward. The tunnel narrowed. Walls tightened. The air grew colder. As she turned a corner, a new chamber opened up. This one was older, caved in partially, rotting beams splitting above. Scattered on the ground were dozens of items. Wallets, boots, old ID tags. Some military, some civilian. Victims. She crouched beside one and flipped open a faded notebook. June 3rd. He said I'd see her again. I just had to give up one memory. Just one. I chose her laugh. Lena's stomach dropped. Another entry. The less you remember, the more they leave you alone. But I don't even know who I am anymore. Something stirred behind her. She turned sharply, light catching another figure in the shadows. It didn't move. It just stared. Hollow face. Familiar uniform. Josh again. But this time, his eyes weren't glowing. They were crying. He stepped forward and whispered, "Please, remember me. Don't let me fade." Then, a scream echoed through the tunnel. Not his. Ghosts. Lena bolted upright at the sound of Ghost's scream, raw, panicked, distant. She spun in place, flashlight darting across crumbling walls and scattered debris, heart pounding like a war drum. "Ghost!" No response. She shoved the notebooks into her bag and ran, feet skidding across the damp tunnel floor, following her chalk marks in reverse. Every few steps, she shouted his name. The silence that answered was worse than noise. Finally, she reached the vertical shaft where the ladder led up to room 3. The vent was still open. Light seeped through the slats above. She climbed as fast as her shaking legs would allow, lungs burning. Bursting into the room, she found it empty. The door was ajar. The air smelled of wet fur and ozone. "Ghost?" Her voice cracked. "Come on, boy." Something on the bed caught her eye. Tufts of his fur, torn fabric, and a single paw print, burned into the mattress. Black, seared. Her throat tightened. She ran to the hallway, calling louder now. Down the stairs, into the parking lot. The motel was still, the town silent. She turned back and saw the ranger, standing at the edge of the woods, watching. He didn't wave, didn't move, just stood there, like he'd been waiting for her. Lena didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. She returned to the room, locked the door behind her, and slid the dresser in front of it. Her fingers trembled as she opened Josh's notebook again. Near the back, she found a map she hadn't seen before, drawn hastily. It showed the town, and beneath it, a symbol, a spiral, encircling a crude sketch of the motel. At the center, written in capital letters, "The door is under room 3. Lena looked at the floor beneath her feet. Her flashlight flickered once more, then went out. Lena scrambled to find her backup flashlight, heart racing as shadows pressed in from every corner of the room. She flicked it on, relieved when the beam cut through the darkness. She knelt, sweeping the light across the floor. Carpet, old and stained, but something about the shape beneath it felt uneven. She pulled the rug back. There it was, a hatch, barely visible under layers of dust and grime, the same spiral eye symbol carved faintly into the wood. Her breath hitched. She traced it with her fingertips. It felt warm. Without giving herself time to second guess, Lena slid a knife from her bag and wedged it into the crack. With effort, the hatch creaked open, revealing a square hole leading downward, different from the tunnel she had entered before. This one was lined with stone. No ladder, just steps carved into the earth. She took one last look at the motel room, at the photo of Josh on the nightstand, then began her descent. The deeper she went, the more unnatural the stone became. It shimmered faintly, as if absorbing light. The air smelled of ash and cedar. After 20 steps, she reached a door. Massive, ancient, iron-bound wood with the same spiral burned into its center. Around it, dozens of carvings, faces with mouths open in screams, eyes gouged out, memories etched into the grain. She reached out to touch the handle. It opened on its own. A gust of wind rushed out, warm, wet, and humming with energy that made her teeth buzz. And from deep inside, she heard something speak, not with words, but with memory. Her father's voice, Josh's laughter, her mother humming to herself in the kitchen. All at once, all echoing from the dark. Ghost's bark followed, loud, panicked, far below. Lena stepped through the door, and it closed behind her. The moment the door slammed shut, the sound disappeared. Completely. No footsteps, no echoes, just silence, dense and absolute. Lena turned in place, flashlight cutting through a chamber unlike anything she had seen. It was vast and alive. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. Lining them were shelves, thousands of them stacked with objects, a child's shoe, a wedding ring, A crumpled photo, old coins, torn letters, faded dog tags, memories, not hers, everyone's. She stepped forward cautiously, drawn to one shelf. Her fingers hovered over a cracked snow globe labeled with a rusted tag. Daniel M. Your first winter, age 5. When she touched it, the room changed. Snow. She stood in a living room she didn't recognize, warm and lit by a fireplace. A boy spun in circles, laughing, holding the globe. Outside the window, real snow fell. It wasn't a memory she owned, but it felt real. Suddenly, the scene snapped away. She was back in the vault, breathless, hands shaking. "It's a trap," she whispered. Every memory was a lure. Another whisper drifted through the chamber, not external, but internal. "Stay, remember, rest." She backed away, resisting the pull. Farther into the chamber, she found a section marked in red. Sacrificed. There, among the shelves, she saw something familiar. Ghost's collar. Her knees buckled. She reached for it, but her hand stopped mid-air. If she took it, if she accepted the memory, would it mean he was gone? She yanked her hand back. "No," she said aloud. "Not yet." Then she heard a growl. Low. Fierce. Real. Behind the shelves, something was coming. But it wasn't Ghost. It was something that wore his sound, and it was getting closer. Lena backed against the shelf, her flashlight trembling in her grip. The growling grew louder, steady and guttural, just like Ghost when he sensed danger. But something about it was wrong, too rhythmic, too perfect. "Ghost?" she called, voice cracking. No answer. Then, out of the shadows, a shape emerged. It looked like Ghost. Same body, same gait, same intelligent eyes. But when he stepped into the light, Lena gasped. His fur shimmered like smoke. His movements were off, jerky, puppet-like, and his eyes were mirror-flat, reflecting her face, not feeling it. The creature paused, tilted its head. Then it spoke. Lena. Her blood turned to ice. Ghost never spoke, not even in dreams. She took a shaky step back. "You're not him." It grinned, unnatural on a dog's face. "But I could be. All I need is one memory, the one where he saved you. Let me have it." Lena shook her head, heart pounding. "You can't have that." The creature stepped forward, voice velvet soft. "If you forget, you'll stop hurting. You'll stop searching. You can rest." She raised the flashlight like a weapon. "I don't want rest." "Then you'll stay." It lunged. Lena dove behind the shelf, shoving it with all her weight. The unit toppled, crashing into others, sending memories scattering. Snow globes, letters, tokens of lives unlived. The creature howled, trapped under the debris for now. Lena ran. Deeper into the vault, past rows of forgotten names and stolen lives. She didn't know where the path led. But she knew one thing. If they fed on memory, then remembering right was the only way to fight. And she wasn't done remembering Josh. Not yet. Lena sprinted through the endless corridors, shelves blurring past her in flickers of light and shadow. The memory vault pulsed around her like a living being, moaning softly as she ran. She turned a corner and skidded to a halt. The path split in 5 directions. Each tunnel was labeled with a word carved in stone above it. Grief, hope, fear, love, rage. Behind her, the false ghost was stirring again, claws scratching on stone, growling low and hungry. Lena's chest heaved. She had no map, no plan. But she knew one thing. Rage wouldn't bring her brother back. Grief would paralyze her. Fear would feed the things in this place. She turned toward love. The tunnel narrowed, glowing faintly with gold light. Along its walls, scenes shimmered, like windows into other lives. A girl hugging her grandmother, a soldier returning to his child, a dog racing through a field, ears flapping like wings. Then one memory stopped her cold. Josh and her, age 9, sitting under a pine tree. He was making her a crown from dandelions. She was laughing so hard she fell backward. Lena reached out to touch it. It didn't hurt. It warmed her fingers. Suddenly, a voice echoed. Not the monster's, but her brother's. Clear, steady, real. "Lena, I left a way out. You just have to find the gate." She turned. Where? But the memory faded. Ahead, the tunnel curved upward, brighter now. At the top of the slope stood a set of doors, simple wood, not carved or ominous, just ordinary. She reached for the handle, then stopped. Behind her, something massive was approaching, bones snapping, snarls echoing. The vault was angry, and it was coming for what she refused to give. Lena flung open the plain wooden doors and stepped into a room unlike any other in the vault. It was empty, no shelves, no memories, just stone walls and a single pedestal in the center, bathed in soft white light. On the pedestal, an old compass. She approached cautiously, breath catching in her throat. It was Josh's. She remembered it clearly, a gift from their grandfather, passed down through 3 generations. Josh used to carry it in his jacket pocket during every hike. When she picked it up, the needle spun wildly, then stilled, pointing behind her. To the wall, where there had been nothing before, now stood a gate, metal, circular, covered in carvings of eyes and flames. The compass needle vibrated. Lena stepped forward, heart thundering. Then a roar echoed down the tunnel, deep, guttural, monstrous. The vault had sent something new. The floor shook, stone cracked, and from the shadows stepped a creature that defied logic. Twisted limbs, mouths where no mouths should be, eyes, hundreds of them, blinking in unison. The embodiment of everything forgotten, consumed, erased. The gatekeeper. It spoke without speaking. "You cannot leave with memory. Memory belongs to us." Lena held the compass tight. "He's mine. Josh is mine." "Then forget him, or join him." The monster lunged. She dove, rolling toward the gate. As she reached the center, the compass burned hot in her hand. She slammed it against the carvings. The metal pulsed. The eyes on the gate opened, and with a sound like 1,000 screams turning inside out, the gate began to dissolve. The creature shrieked, recoiling. But Lena didn't look back. She stepped through, into light. Light swallowed her. Not blinding, not painful, just pure. It pressed against her skin like warmth from the inside out. And then, just as suddenly, it faded. Lena stumbled forward and fell to her knees. Grass, fresh, damp, living grass. She blinked. The vault was gone. She was in a forest, real this time. Birds chirped. A breeze carried the scent of pine and earth. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows across her arms. She was outside, alive, but not alone. A rustle behind her. She turned and froze. Ghost stood at the edge of the trees, panting, tail high and wagging. His fur was matted, his paw scraped, but his eyes, his real eyes, were locked on her. "Ghost," she whispered, voice cracking. He barked and sprinted toward her. She caught him mid-leap, arms wrapping around his neck, tears streaming down her face. "You're okay," she gasped. "You made it." He whined, licking her cheek, tail thumping against the ground. She didn't know how. She didn't care. She buried her face in his fur and let the weight of everything drain out. When she finally looked up, she noticed something in the distance. A cabin. Old, worn, but intact. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone lived here. Someone real. She stood slowly, the compass still clenched in her palm. The needle now pointed toward the cabin. Josh's voice echoed in her mind. Find the gate. Remember me. Lena turned to Ghost. Come on, boy. Let's find out who else remembers. They started walking, through this new forest, toward whatever came next. Behind them, the trees stood still, watching, but no longer reaching. The forest seemed to soften with every step. Birds returned to the canopy. Distant streams whispered. Lena kept one hand on Ghost's back and the other on the compass, which glowed faintly now, its needle unwavering. The cabin came into view, logs grayed with age, moss climbing its sides, windows fogged with time. But there were signs of life, a chopped woodpile, a garden with fresh sprouts, a wind chime clinking softly in the breeze. Ghost sniffed the air, then barked once, not out of alarm, but recognition. Lena approached the front door and knocked gently. No answer. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Warm air met her. Inside was a single room, cozy but cluttered. Books, maps, old photographs, a table covered in tools, lanterns hung from the ceiling beams. And in the center, an old man sat in a wooden chair, facing the fireplace. He didn't turn, but he spoke. You brought the compass. Lena froze. How do you know that? I gave it to him, the man replied. To Josh. She stepped closer. You knew my brother? I was his guide, the man said, before the gate took him. Lena's voice trembled. Is he alive? The man finally turned. His face was lined but kind, eyes pale and knowing. Not in the way you remember. The vault takes what it wants, but it doesn't always keep it. He reached out a hand. Show me the compass. She placed it in his palm. He studied it, then smiled. You opened the gate. That means memory still has power. He looked at Ghost. And you weren't supposed to come back either, were you? Ghost wagged his tail once. The man stood. Then we have work to do. Lena frowned. What kind of work? He looked out the window toward the forest. Others are still trapped. Lena sat at the cabin's worn table as the old man laid out a weathered map, hand-drawn, patched with tape, and covered in markings. Some symbols she recognized from Josh's notes. Others were new. Triangles with slashes, dots inside circles, jagged arrows that pulsed faintly in the candlelight. This is where the vault touches our world, he said, pointing to various locations. These marks? Places where people vanish, where memory thins. Lena leaned closer. This town, Merrick Creek, is just one? He nodded. There are dozens, all connected, all feeding the vault. She shook her head slowly. Why? Why memories? Because they're energy, the man said. Raw, emotional, untamed. Grief, love, joy. They're like fuel to whatever's on the other side. Ghost whined, sensing the heaviness in the room. The old man continued. Josh wasn't the first to resist, but he was the first to map it, to fight back. He slid a second paper forward, a page torn from a journal, Josh's handwriting. If someone finds this, remember me. Remember why I stayed. The gate needs an anchor. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. He chose to stay behind, so I could escape. The man nodded solemnly. And now, thanks to you, the gate is open, just a crack. That means we have a chance to pull others back. Lena looked down at the compass. Its needle now pulsed softly, not pointing anywhere, just glowing with steady warmth. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. You don't have to, the man said gently. You just have to remember. Outside, the wind picked up. Trees rustled. The world felt a little wider. Lena stood. Then let's get to work. Ghost barked in agreement. Together they began planning. Not to run, but to return. Because memory, once a burden, was now their weapon. Days passed in the cabin, though Lena wasn't sure how time truly moved here. The sky changed, the fire needed feeding, but nothing felt consistent. Still, she and the old man, who finally told her his name was Ellis, worked tirelessly. Their mission: learn how to control memory without becoming lost in it. Most people fall apart because they cling to pain, Ellis explained one morning. To survive in the vault, you have to carry memory without drowning in it. They practiced exercises, holding a memory just long enough to feel it, but letting it go before it consumed her. Lena recalled her 10th birthday, the pink cake her mom made, Josh pushing her face into it. She laughed, then sobbed, then breathed. Ellis smiled. That's the balance. Ghost stayed close, sensing when her thoughts drifted too deep. He'd nudge her leg, snap her out of it, grounding her in the present. One evening, Ellis brought out a mirror, old, framed with ash wood, fogged at the edges. "This is the portal you'll use next time," he said. Lena frowned. "I thought the gate was closed." "It is, for now. But the vault wants more. It's always searching for cracks in the world." He tapped the mirror. "This is one." Lena looked into it and saw herself, but younger, smiling, unscarred by loss. Then, behind the reflection, a flicker, a girl she didn't recognize, trapped, eyes wide, mouth moving without sound. "Who is that?" she asked. Ellis's face darkened. "One of the missing. Her name was Ruthie. Disappeared 2 months ago in Wisconsin. Her parents never stopped looking." Lena clenched her fists. "Then we find her." Ellis nodded. "And to do that, you'll have to go back in. With Ghost, with the compass, with memory, as your shield." She took a deep breath. "I'm ready." The morning Lena entered the mirror, the sky was unnaturally still. Not a single bird sang. Ellis prepared the ritual in silence, drawing symbols around the frame with ash and salt, his fingers trembling ever so slightly. "You don't need to be brave," he said quietly. "You just need to be true." Lena looked at Ghost. He sat tall, ready, eyes never leaving hers. "I've got you," she whispered to him. Ellis lit a final candle and stepped back. "Once you cross, the vault will try to confuse you, twist what you remember. It may even try to use Josh again. But don't believe anything unless it hurts in the right way." "What does that mean?" she asked. Ellis gave a soft, sad smile. "You'll know." The mirror rippled like water. Lena stepped forward, the compass clutched tight in her hand. Ghost padded beside her. She touched the glass. It swallowed her. A jolt of cold rushed through her body as color and sound blurred into static. For a moment, she felt weightless, like falling through a tunnel built from every memory she'd ever had. Birthday candles, Josh's laugh, her mother's hands brushing her hair, and then darkness. She landed hard on stone. She opened her eyes. She was back, not in the vault, but on the edge of it. A twisted version of a playground lay ahead, swings creaking without wind, slides that curved into the ground. Fog rolled across the landscape like breath, and at the center, a girl. Small, pale, dressed in yellow, frozen in place. Ruthie. Lena took one step forward, and the fog whispered, "Trade a memory, or she stays." Ghost growled beside her. The vault was already watching. Lena stood at the edge of the fog, heart hammering as the vault's voice slithered around her. "Trade a memory, or she stays." Ruthie didn't move. Her eyes blinked slowly, lips parted in silence, like she was caught between moments. A flicker of fear passed through her expression and then vanished, like the vault was suppressing it. Lena stepped forward, the compass pulsing in her palm. "I'm not giving you anything," she said. The fog swirled tighter. Then she will fade. Ghost growled, low and threatening. Lena knelt beside him and whispered, "It's trying to trap us again, just like before." She reached into her jacket and pulled out Josh's notebook, the one she had carried with her since the motel. She opened to the last page, where his handwriting trembled. "If it comes to a choice, don't trade what defines you. Trade what built you. Keep the hurt. Lose the weight." She stood and shouted into the fog, "Fine, I'll trade." The vault paused. "What do you offer?" Lena's throat tightened. Then she said it, softly. "My first time seeing Josh after he came back from overseas. The airport, the hug, the tears. I give that to you." The fog hissed in approval. She felt the memory pull away, like a thread unraveling from her mind. The image faded from her heart. Not the fact, it still existed, but the feeling of it, the warmth, the smell of his coat, the tremble in his laugh, gone. Ruthie blinked and moved. She gasped, like surfacing from water. Lena ran to her, arms wrapping around her gently. "You're okay. You're safe now." Ruthie clung to her, sobbing. Ghost barked once, sharp and clear. The vault didn't speak again. But the fog began to recede. The playground shimmered and shook, as if the entire memory space was collapsing. Trees bent unnaturally, colors twisted. Lena grabbed Ruthie's hand and pulled her close. "Stay with me," she said firmly. Ghost barked again, running ahead toward a swirling shape forming in the air, like a tear in fabric, glowing faintly blue. "That's the way out," Lena said. "We go now." Behind them, the fog churned violently, like it regretted letting go of its prize. "You gave us one," it hissed, "but you carry many more." Lena ignored it. They ran. The fog reached after them, tendrils of mist curling and snapping like claws. Ghost snapped at one, teeth slicing through vapor, buying them seconds. Lena lifted Ruthie, carrying her now as the path began to crack beneath their feet. The compass in her jacket pulsed again, hard. The exit loomed ahead. A mirror hanging in midair, spinning slowly, reflecting not the vault, but the inside of the cabin. Ellis stood on the other side, arms raised, chanting something she couldn't hear. Lena didn't hesitate. She dove. They tumbled through the mirror with a flash and landed on the cabin floor in a heap. Air rushed back into her lungs. Solid ground, a flickering fire. Ghost whined, circling them, licking Ruthie's face. The girl stirred, then cried softly, burying her face in Lena's chest. Ellis knelt beside them, eyes wet. "You did it," he said. "You brought her back." Lena nodded, but her gaze drifted. Something in her felt hollow, not broken, but missing. She couldn't remember Josh's hug at the airport, not even the sound of his voice that day. But Ruthie was safe, and that mattered more. That night, the cabin was quiet. Ruthie slept curled under a wool blanket, her breathing soft and even. Ghost lay nearby, alert but calm, occasionally glancing at Lena, as if to check she hadn't drifted into shadow again. Lena sat alone by the fireplace, fingers grazing the notebook in her lap. Josh's notebook. She turned its pages, but something was different. Blank spaces. Words faded. A section she remembered, about their favorite childhood hiding spots, was gone. The trade had rippled through more than one memory. Ellis approached, handing her a mug of hot tea. "You should rest." She shook her head. "I'm afraid if I sleep, more pieces will vanish." He nodded, solemn. "That's the cost. Every rescue is a thread you cut from your own tapestry." Lena looked toward Ruthie. "But we can sew others back." Ellis smiled faintly. "Exactly." She glanced at the compass. Its glow was steady now, no longer pulsing wildly, just warm, anchored. You said there were more missing, she said, more like Ruthie. Ellis crouched beside the fire, feeding it pine wood. Some taken decades ago, some just yesterday. The vault stretches across time, and we're going after them. He looked up, surprised by the conviction in her voice. You'd give more? She hesitated, then nodded. If it means giving someone back their child, their sister, their friend? Yes. But this time, I want to learn how to go in smarter. I want to fight, not just rescue. Ghost lifted his head, tail thumping once in approval. Ellis chuckled. Then tomorrow, we begin your real training. Lena leaned back in her chair, watching the flames crackle. Somewhere in her chest, the ache of missing Josh remained. But beside it, something stronger was growing. Purpose. The next morning, Ellis led Lena and Ghost deep into the forest, farther than they'd ever gone. The trees grew taller here, their trunks scorched in places. Strange symbols were carved into bark, some glowing faintly when touched. This is an echo zone, Ellis explained, a fragment of the vault's edge that leaked into our world. Here, we train with memory, as a weapon. Lena raised an eyebrow. A weapon? Ellis knelt beside a stump and opened a satchel filled with small, clear stones. These hold echoes, memories borrowed from others, with their consent. Each has power, joy, rage, clarity. You can summon them when the vault attacks. He handed her one. She held it, and was instantly flooded with a moment not her own. A man standing on a mountaintop, laughing as wind whipped through his hair. Pure exhilaration. It surged through her like fire, then vanished. Lena gasped. That was incredible. Ellis nodded. Joy burns brighter than fear. Use it at the right time, and you can blind the vault's illusions. He showed her how to bind memory echoes into charms, how to focus them with the compass, how to build mental walls to protect her own memories during an attack. Ghost trained, too, tracking false scents, recognizing illusions, snarling at mirages until they shattered. Hours passed. By sunset, Lena stood in the middle of the echo field, sweat dripping down her back, holding 2 memory stones, one joy, one grief. Ellis clapped once. You're learning faster than Josh did. She paused. You trained him here? He nodded, until the day he chose to go alone. Lena clenched the stones tighter. Then we'll finish what he started. Behind her, Ghost barked once, toward the trees. Another ripple passed through the forest. The vault was watching. That night, Lena awoke to the sound of wind, but it wasn't real wind. It moved through the cabin like breath, slow, heavy, deliberate. Ghost stood at the door, ears back, growling. Lena sat up, instincts sharp. What is it? A whisper followed, not from outside, from inside her mind. You took her. Now give us more. She clutched the compass, which buzzed faintly in her hand, like it sensed intrusion. Ellis rushed in, carrying a lantern. It's speaking again, isn't it? Lena nodded. It wants another trade. Ellis cursed under his breath. You've shaken it, opened a crack wider than it wants. Ghost barked once, and Lena turned. There, on the wall, something shimmered. A message burned into the wood, like scorched handwriting. Trade, or they will forget you. She stepped closer, reading it aloud. What does that mean? Ellis's face darkened. It's threatening to erase you, piece by piece, not kill, unmake. Lena's stomach twisted. Can it do that? He nodded slowly. If you engage with it, if you answer. She looked at the mark again, and did the opposite. She turned her back to it. I remember on my terms, she said aloud. Not yours. The compass glowed brighter. The burned message faded, hissing. Ghost's growl softened into a low, protective rumble. Ellis placed a hand on her shoulder. That was your first defense. Memory without fear. Lena exhaled, but she knew it wasn't over. If the vault had resorted to direct threats, it meant one thing. It was afraid. The following morning, Ellis spread out a new map across the cabin table. Larger, hand-drawn, pulsing with faint traces of color. Unlike the earlier map of vault gateways, this one glowed with flickers of gold, blue, and red. This is the Echo map, he explained. It shows emotional imprints left behind by those who fought, and those still trapped. Lena ran her fingers over a glowing red mark near the upper corner. Chicago? She asked. Ellis nodded. A boy named Noah vanished there 2 weeks ago. His mother reported he sleepwalked into a mirror and never returned. Ghost whined softly beside them, sensing the shift in energy. Ellis pointed to the map's center, a bright, flickering cluster of light near Merrick Creek. That's you, he said. Your memory signature. Ever since you returned from the vault, it's been pulsing stronger than anything I've seen. Lena frowned. Is that good or bad? Both, Ellis said. It means you're powerful now, but it also means the vault sees you as a threat. She looked toward the compass on the table, its glow steady and unwavering. I'm not afraid of it anymore, she said. Ellis smiled. Then it's time to expand the mission. He handed her a second map, blank, except for a single phrase scribbled across the top. Those we bring back. It was a list, a future. She took it without hesitation. We start with Noah, Lena said. Then we find more. Ellis nodded. For each one you return, the vault weakens. Ghost barked sharply, tail wagging. Lena rolled the blank map and tucked it into her pack. We're not just remembering now, she said. We're reclaiming. 2 days later, Lena stood at the edge of downtown Chicago. Concrete towers stretching above her, cars honking, people rushing past, unaware that just beneath their world, the vault stirred. She'd followed the pulse on the Echo map here. The compass had guided her to an alley behind an old bookstore, its windows fogged with dust. On the wall beside a dumpster, she found it. A mirror, ordinary to the world, but not to her. Its surface shimmered faintly, like water beneath glass. Ghost sniffed it, then sat beside her, alert. Ellis's voice echoed in her memory. Urban vault points are unstable. You may have to act fast. She reached into her pack, pulled out a Joy Echo stone, and placed it gently against the glass. The mirror absorbed it with a low hum, and opened. Lena stepped through. No hesitation this time. She emerged inside a warped version of a city street. Skyscrapers leaned at impossible angles. Billboards blinked with forgotten faces. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the faint sobs of a child. Noah, she whispered. Ghost took the lead, weaving through alleys of memory scars. Shops filled with toys missing their color. Stairwells that looped endlessly. Doorways that led to nowhere. Finally, they found him. A boy, no older than 9, sitting in the middle of a crosswalk frozen in time. Tears streaked his cheeks. I got lost, he said. Lena knelt. You're not lost anymore. I'm here to take you home. The ground trembled. From the shadows the vault sent its newest weapon, a mirror image of Lena, smiling, empty, whispering, let him stay. He's happier here. But this time, Lena didn't falter. Lena rose to face her reflection, this false version of herself, conjured from the vault's twisted depths. The other Lena smiled wider, stepping closer. Why fight? You're tired. You miss him. Stay here, with all your memories. No more losses. Ghost growled, placing himself between them. Noah clung to Lena's leg, trembling. She stood firm. "I've lost enough," Lena said, "and I've learned that real memory doesn't trap. It frees." The doppelganger frowned. "But you gave away a part of Josh. You'll never get it back." Lena tightened her grip on the compass. "And I'll give more if it means saving others." She reached into her pack, pulled out the grief echo stone, and crushed it in her palm. A burst of energy rippled outward. Every lost face she'd carried surged through her. The birthday without Josh, the silence after the knock on the door, the pain of waiting. But she didn't run from it. She wielded it. The false Lena staggered back, cracking like glass from the inside. "You don't own me," Lena growled. The vault screeched in fury. A vortex opened behind the false image, dragging it backward. Before she vanished, it whispered one last warning. "There are worse things than forgetting." Then it shattered into a million shards. Lena dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Noah stared in awe. "You're like a superhero." She smiled, pulling him close. "I'm just someone who remembers what matters." She held the compass high. A new mirror formed, one filled with golden light. The way home. She took Noah's hand, nodded to Ghost, and stepped through. Back at the cabin, the fire crackled with life, as Lena helped Noah settle under a blanket. He clutched a cup of cocoa like it was a treasure, eyes wide as he took in the shelves of maps and memory stones. Ellis smiled from his chair. "He'll need time, but he's whole." Lena nodded, still catching her breath. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what she'd carried and returned. Ghost laid at her feet, finally relaxed. "I saw a version of myself in there," Lena said, "one who wanted to stay." Ellis stirred the fire thoughtfully. "The vault grows smarter. It doesn't just feed on your pain anymore. It offers comfort. That's harder to resist." She unrolled her blank scroll, the Those We Bring Back map, and for the first time wrote a name. Ruthie, recovered. Noah, recovered. She paused, staring at the space below. Ellis handed her a leather-bound journal, edges scorched, pages thick with age. Josh's journal. "Where did you get this?" Lena whispered. "It returned with the last breach. You earned it." She opened it slowly. New entries had appeared, ones she had never seen, written in Josh's hand. She made it out. She's remembering. The vault fears her. That means there's still time. Her throat closed. He knew. Even inside, he knew I'd come. Ellis put a hand on her shoulder. "And he's leaving you a trail." Lena looked out the window, where the trees stood still, but deeper now, darker, waiting. She stood. "We go again tomorrow." Ellis raised an eyebrow. "No rest?" She shook her head. "We're building something, not just rescuing the lost, but breaking the vault's hold." And for the first time since it all began, she believed they might actually win. The next morning, the forest was wrong. Lena noticed it the moment she stepped outside. The wind didn't move. The birds were silent, and the trees, once guardians, now stood stiff, like watchers. Ghost growled low, fur bristling. Ellis appeared beside her, already gripping his staff. "It's retaliating. The vault knows we're gaining ground." He held up the echo map. Half of it had turned dark. Lena stared. "It's consuming the rescue points?" Ellis nodded grimly. "It's collapsing memory threads before we can reach them. People who were barely holding on, they're vanishing." Lena clenched her jaw. "Then we move faster." But before they could act, a crack split the ground near the cabin. A black vine burst through, pulsing like a heartbeat. It slammed into the side of the building, curling through the air, searching. Ellis tossed her a grief stone. It's not just a breach. It's a full attack. Lena raised her compass. The needle spun wildly. Ghost barked, charging the vine. It recoiled but didn't retreat. Then a voice boomed from nowhere and everywhere. You remember too much. The words rattled her bones. Lena stepped forward, raising both hands. I remember because I choose to, and I'm not stopping. She slammed the memory stone into the ground. A wave of light exploded outward, blue and gold and red, washing over the vines, freezing them mid-snarl. The darkness hissed, retreating into the soil. Silence returned. The cabin groaned, damaged but intact. Ellis exhaled. That was only the first strike. Lena looked toward the horizon. Smoke rose from the next forest ridge. Another breach. She turned back to Ellis. No more waiting. From now on, we hit first. By nightfall, the cabin had become a command center. Ellis unrolled 3 more echo maps across the floor. Each showed regions where memory breaches had begun pulsing. Texas, Nova Scotia, an island off the coast of Japan. Lena paced with purpose, packing memory stones into a reinforced satchel. Ghost sat at attention near the door, muscles tense, ready to run. We're done playing defense, Lena said. We take the fight to the vault. Ellis nodded. But you'll need more than just echoes. You'll need anchors, real, emotional tethers, to protect you while inside. I've got them, she replied. Josh, Ghost, Ruthie, Noah, every face I've brought home. That's my armor. She pulled out the blank scroll, those we bring back, and unrolled it on the table. 2 more names had appeared, unprompted. Emiko, awaiting Miguel. Calling Ellis raised a brow. It's responding to you now. You're no longer just mapping survivors. You're attracting them. Lena traced her fingers over the names. They're still inside, she whispered, and they want to be found. Suddenly, the compass glowed white-hot. A new mirror formed, hovering just above the floor. This one was different. No shimmer, no distortion, just clarity, as if the vault had opened the door itself. Ellis grabbed his staff. This could be a trap. Lena nodded. Or a challenge. She turned to Ghost. With me? He barked once, stepping through the mirror without hesitation. She smiled. Didn't think so. Lena followed. The mirror rippled and swallowed her whole. Ellis stared after her, heart heavy but proud. She's not just a rescuer anymore, he whispered. She's a war front. Lena landed hard, knees scraping against marble that shouldn't have existed underground. This wasn't like the other breaches. It wasn't fragmented or twisted. It was pristine, a vast cathedral of memory, carved into impossible geometry. Spirals upon spirals, mirrors floating midair, voices whispering from glowing cracks in the walls, every one of them familiar. Josh, her mother, herself. Ghost stood beside her, unmoving, because at the center of it all was a figure, not monstrous, not cloaked, but a perfect replica of Josh, unaged, smiling, waiting. Lena stepped forward. You're not him. The thing tilted its head. Aren't I? You've given so much to remember me. Why not keep the version you want? She clenched the compass. Because I don't want perfect. I want real. The false Josh stepped closer, and behind him thousands of images swirled, faces of those she'd saved, and thousands more still trapped. I can give you peace, he whispered. No more missions, no more pain, just completion. The cathedral pulsed. Ghost growled, but this time not at the entity, at Lena. She understood. This wasn't just another confrontation. This was the vault's core, and it was offering her what it thought she wanted most. Thank you, she said softly. then crushed the joy stone in her hand. Light burst through the marble, filling every crack, every whispering mirror. I choose the hard memories, Lena said, the messy ones, the painful ones, because they're mine, and I won't trade them anymore. The false Josh screamed, fracturing like glass under fire. The cathedral began to collapse. Mirrors exploded. Names, real ones, rushed past her like wind. Emiko, Miguel, Zara, Trent. She raised the compass one final time, and everything turned to light. Lena awoke to the scent of pine smoke and the soft weight of a wool blanket. She was back in the cabin. The fire had burned low. Ghost was asleep at her feet, his chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Ellis sat nearby, watching quietly. His eyes were tired, but full of awe. "You made it back," he said. She sat up slowly, her body aching like she'd climbed a mountain in a dream. "Was I gone long?" 3 hours, he said. But the breach collapsed, the compass dimmed, and then he gestured toward the map table. The Those We Bring Back scroll now bore new names, 23 in total, including Josh Reyes, partial recovery. Lena's breath caught. "Partial?" Ellis nodded. "I don't know what it means yet, but you changed something in the vault's foundation. You fractured its illusion." She walked to the scroll, fingertips brushing over her brother's name. Behind her, a mirror shimmered softly, dormant, but no longer hostile. Ghost approached, placing his head under her hand. She smiled and scratched behind his ear. "We're not done," she said. Ellis chuckled. But it's different now. You're not just saving the lost. You're reshaping the vault's rules." Lena looked out the cabin window. The forest beyond no longer felt like it was watching her. Instead, it waited, like a trail ready to be walked. She turned to the compass, now resting quietly on the table. "I don't need it to glow," she whispered. "I know where I'm going." Then she opened the door, scroll in one hand, Ghost at her side. Behind her, the echoes of grief, fear, and war. Ahead of her, names worth saving. And at the center of it all, a memory no vault could erase. She remembered, and she chose to keep going.